But Benedict, I mean, you know, it's a nightmare really for the government, isn't it? Because we've got over 2 trillion quid's worth of national debt. We've got a deficit, which means more is going out than is coming in, which will be with us for several years to come. So even just paying the basic bills involves borrowing.
Yeah.
So the issue is, you know, how do the public sector get their pay rises? How do we help people with their energy bills? How do we cut taxes? How do we do all of that in one fell swoop with a broke country?
The key thing, I think, is that nobody's going to get a pay rise, and actually people shouldn't expect pay rises because that's just going to end up feeding into inflation. And this is where the questions around lowering tax do come in. How do you get more money into the pockets of ordinary people if you can't feed more money into the economy because that leads to inflation? Well, you cut taxes. And the issue with this is, of course, and a lot of people are complaining about it because, of course, the NHS is in a very difficult situation. You know, it's got huge backlogs and that requires money. Right. The problem is that this Conservative government has created a situation where increasingly people are very reliant on the state. Many people would say that's very unconservative. That's neither here nor there at this point. It is where we are. A lot of people are very, they rely on it a lot. And I think the issue is there are going to have to be some very difficult decisions made in terms of actually what it is that the state can continue to fund in the short to medium term, because the issue we have here is if we continue to tax everything quite to the levels that we are, we're going to choke off the economic recovery that we do need. Because let's be honest, right now we talk about a cost of living crisis. It's not. It's a financial crisis, as it was in 2008. I mean, obviously for different reasons caused it, but it is nonetheless a financial crisis. A recession is coming. We need to approach it in those terms, and that will mean more money needs to be spent, and that means ordinary people who, as we've already touched upon, are going through a very difficult situation. Lots of businesses are already, still struggling as a result of the pandemic, sort of the knock-on effects of that. And that ultimately is the balancing act that the government needs to do. Can it continue to print money to pump into the system? No, that's very damaging. So what can it do? It has to say, these are some things that we can no longer continue to fund to the level that we have done, and this is what we're going to end up cutting in order to mean that we don't take so much money in tax so that ordinary people can put themselves
you're dancing around it in your characteristically elegant way. Benedict, I think the word we're talking about is austerity, isn't it?
It is.
Is it time for Austerity 2, the worst sequel since The Hangover 2?
Did austerity ever go away?
Well, it might be back with a vengeance.
Yes.
I mean,
how many jobs has George Osborne got at the moment? I mean, as long as it's not 6, then he's all right. He's got space, he's got spare time, and as you've pointed out, nobody wants to be Chancellor right now. But I bet George Osborne would quite fancy being back in number 11. So why don't we wheel him back? He was very keen on that sort of thing. Yeah, ultimately, I think that is the end result. It's going to have to be austerity, not on everything, but there are going to have to be certain areas of public spending that we cut down on in order to allow people to help themselves. It's not nice, but those are the difficult decisions that you have to make.